In the bustling chaos of Manila, where jeepneys painted with saints and slogans honked endlessly and the air was thick with the scent of fried bananas and exhaust smoke, there lived a boy named Miguel whose life was measured in survival rather than dreams, for he and his mother Rosa, a laundrywoman with hands cracked and raw from scrubbing other people's clothes, lived in a shack of plywood and rusted metal sheets that leaked rain and creaked with every wind, yet within Miguel burned a light. Far brighter than the neon signs that lit the crowded streets at night, a light carried in the form of music, a voice so raw, haunting, and soulful that even stray dogs would pause to listen when he sang. He had no teacher, no piano, no fancy equipment, only an old radio his neighbor Mang Ernesto had salvaged from a junkyard, its static-filled songs becoming his secret classroom. And though Miguel barely understood the English lyrics, he felt them with his heart, especially one song, Hotel California, by the Eagles, which struck him like lightning every time he heard it, with its mysterious melody and haunting story that made him believe it carried some hidden message just for him, a poor barefoot boy who longed for more than the narrow alleys of poverty. Each night after helping his mother sell boiled peanuts by the roadside, after dodging drunkards and enduring hunger, Miguel would climb onto their shack roof, gaze at the faint stars through Manila's smog, and sing quietly, and though no spotlight shone on him, neighbors stopped to listen in silence, weary vendors let their tears fall, and Rosa sat in the shadows praying that the world might one day hear what she heard, a miracle wrapped in a child's trembling voice. Then fate, disguised as opportunity, arrived one humid afternoon when a glowing television screen in a shop window announced auditions for a national singing competition, a show broadcast across the country with promises of fame, scholarships, and prize money that could change entire families' destinies, and though Miguel's heart raced, hope quickly tangled with fear, for how could a boy with no decent clothes, no money for travel, and no connections ever stand on such a stage? Yet destiny often works through kindness, and that kindness came in the form of Liza, a young NGO volunteer who stopped in her tracks when she heard Miguel singing for coins on a street corner, his small frame swaying as his voice carried above the chaos of honking cars and bustling crowds, and she was so moved she wept, then knelt and asked if he had ever thought of auditioning. Miguel laughed shyly, embarrassed, but she was insistent, rallying friends to donate for his bus fare, a white shirt, borrowed jeans, and a pair of scuffed shoes polished until they gleamed, and on the morning of the audition, Rosa brushed her son's hair with trembling hands and whispered, "No matter what happens, Anak, you are already my champion," and Miguel hugged her, whispering back, "I will sing for you, Mama, for us." When he stepped onto the Grand Theater stage, the lights blinding, the three judges waiting with weary expressions, and the audience murmuring doubts about the skinny boy clutching the microphone with shaking hands, whispers rippled, "Too young, too nervous," but Miguel closed his eyes, took a shaky breath, and began to sing Hotel California a cappella, and from the very first note, silence fell like a sacred veil. His voice was not perfect, but it was drenched in emotion, in hunger, in longing, in resilience, and it poured over the room like a river breaking through a dam, drawing tears from strangers, softening the judges' hardened hearts, and by the chorus, even the coldest judge, known for cruel critiques, wiped his eyes as memories of his own poverty resurfaced, while Rosa backstage covered her mouth to stifle her sobs, and when the final note hung trembling in the air before dissolving into silence, the theater erupted, people leaping to their feet, clapping, crying, shouting his name, while the judges, visibly shaken, stood with tears and declared, "Miguel, you didn't just sing, you reminded us why music matters," and in that instant, the boy who once felt invisible became unforgettable. His audition went viral overnight, spreading across the Philippines and then across oceans, especially in the USA where Hotel California was etched in generations of hearts. Millions watched, leaving comments like, "This boy sings with his soul," and "He made me cry and I don't even know him," and donations poured in, scholarships offered, messages from famous musicians sent, yet Miguel remained humble, telling every interviewer, "I sing for my mama, and for every child who feels invisible." Round after round he advanced, singing not only Hotel California, but folk songs, ballads, and gospel hymns, each performance deepening his bond with the world, and though he stood against competitors with professional training and dazzling wardrobes, his sincerity and honesty outshone them, and by the semi-finals, when he performed Hotel California again, this time with a full band. The audience cheered before he sang a word, and by the end thousands wept, feeling they were witnessing not just talent but truth. Though in the finale he did not win the grand prize, the judges awarded him a special scholarship, sponsors stepped in to secure his future, and the world had already chosen him as its champion. His story splashed across newspapers and television screens, inspiring millions. Back home, neighbors crowded around televisions, erupting in cheers when he appeared, their pride swelling as though he were their own child, and Rosa, holding Miguel's hand as they walked back through their alley, whispered, "My son, whether or not you win trophies, you have already won the world's heart," and Miguel, eyes full of tears, replied, "Mama, they finally hear us." Over time his life transformed. He rebuilt their shack into a real home, sent neighborhood kids to school, shared his earnings to feed the hungry, and even sponsored young musicians who reminded him of himself, because Miguel had never forgotten hunger, never forgotten nights when rice water was all they had. Years later, standing on a stage in Los Angeles before thousands, Miguel introduced Hotel California, not as a hit but as the song that lifted him from the slums, and as he sang with a stronger, richer voice, the audience, Filipinos, Americans, people from everywhere, rose together in a thunderous ovation, proving music knows no borders. And after the show, when reporters asked what kept him grounded, Miguel smiled and said, "Because I was just a boy with a song, and the world gave me ears, now I must use it to help others." His story, one of hardship and kindness, of strangers' compassion and a boy's courage, lives on as proof that greatness rises from the humblest beginnings, that a single act of listening can change a life, and that even the poorest voice, when sung with truth, can move the world to tears and remind us all of our shared humanity, leaving us with the undeniable truth that sometimes a song is not just music, it is survival, hope, and the power to transform lives forever.